For trading it all, if I
So welcome back. I am so excited about bringing on my next guest. He's my longest client that's been coming on for 6 years. And yeah, you've heard him, but some people haven't out there. And some people don't call in, and you should, for those people that might want to get entered into win. I've got with me Ted Watkins. He is an enrolled agent, doing this since 1978, is it?
That's right.
And tell everybody a little bit about you, why you come here, and you know, how you can help people.
Okay, well, it's great to be back again on the radio. I love doing radio. But my name's Ted Watkins, if you haven't heard me before, and I'm what's called an enrolled agent before IRS. And if you haven't heard of an enrolled agent, and a lot of people haven't because there's only about 48,000 or so of us in the whole country, but we're actually licensed by the federal government. And Abraham Lincoln is actually the president that started us out back in the Civil War, and we were set up back then to be tax collectors. But now, most enrolled agents, of course, we do income tax returns, but most enrolled agents do a lot of helping people if you have tax issues with the IRS or, say, the states. And since we're licensed by the federal government, I can help you all over the country, all 50 states and all those weird little territories we have like Guam and so forth. So I can help you if you haven't filed your tax returns or you owe and can't pay. I'm the guy that you should give a call, and I've been doing this, like Carol said, since 1978, and I can probably help you out.
And here's the thing. What I like about Ted the most is you're meticulous.
Yes.
You got a very sharp pencil, which is very important.
That's right.
And to have somebody like a enrolled agent be able to do your taxes, you don't have to necessarily have a lot of businesses or even a huge income in order to have someone like you work with you. Also, I want you to talk a little bit now, before we get going here, a little bit about your price structure, because it's really nice. Go ahead.
Okay. So like Carol said, you don't have to be a multi-billionaire for me to work with you. My fees are very reasonable. Most of the time, they're less than H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt or Liberty and so forth. So we want to help everybody we can, and I can work with you. Anybody from if you work for a company, if you have your own business, if you own real estate. I work with a lot of day traders in the stock market. So I have clients from A to Z. I have a few doctors. So pretty much anybody I can help you, because I've been doing this a long time. And I actually spend a lot of time and money going to seminars and continuing education. I mean, I don't just do taxes from January through April 15th. I mean, I do this all year long. I have about 40% of my clients go on extension, so we work until October on that. And then in the summer, we work with people if you haven't filed in several years, or if you've been getting those nasty, I call them nasty grams, from IRS or Department of Revenue. So you don't want to ignore the nasty grams, though, because the IRS is the worst collection agency in the world.
Right. We've said it many times. They're brutal.
They're brutal.
And you don't want to talk to them yourself.
No, you don't. And most people volunteer too much information. That's the worst problem I see. And you're personally involved in your situation. And to me, it's I just want to help you out and to get you the best settlement I can. But you can't get emotional with IRS and call them four-letter word names and so forth, because that gets you nowhere. So.
And what's nice about it is that you're not invested in it in that way. You're not emotionally.
No, that's most people get way too emotionally involved in it, and they start getting into heated discussions with IRS agents, and that's the worst thing you can do, because they're just doing their job, and it's my job to get you the best settlement I can get. But people get too emotionally involved in their own situation, and they start getting into whether the income tax is constitutional, all those kind of things. So they've heard all that before, let me tell you, and that gets their dander up, I should say, when they hear those, and they've heard those arguments time and time again.
So you also can go back for free for 3 years for people who haven't done their taxes. And you do that for free. That's
right. So we can go back for the last 3 tax years. So right now that would be 2013, 14, and 15. We'll take a look at your tax returns. And like Carol said, we'll look at them at no cost to you. And if the returns look like they've been prepared properly, I'll tell you that, and we'll go on. But if there's some things that look like have been missed, particularly if you have your own business or you own rental property, there's a lot of times expenses have been missed, particularly if you've used TurboTax or something like that. So I can go back, and I would recommend that you file an amended tax return if there's enough of a refund that you'd be entitled to.
Now, when somebody works with you and they have to, they start working, we get a power of attorney and all of that happens, they think it's going to be a lot of money. Tell them how much you charge. It's awesome.
Okay, yeah. If you've been unfortunate enough to be contacted by some of these national tax resolution companies, and most of them are in L.A., Miami, and Denver, the first thing they'll ask you is usually for a retainer anywhere between $3,500 and I've heard as high as $18,000. And they want you to get your credit card or rush out and wire them money and so forth. But with me, I don't do anything like that. All I need from you is, first of all, I have to have a power of attorney because of the privacy laws, the IRS and the Department of Revenue and so forth won't talk to me at all. So I charge $175 for the power of attorney fee. And so I file the power of attorney with the IRS or the Department of Revenue, and then we get transcripts, which shows how much you owe, and we figure out if you need to file tax returns. And then at that point, I'll analyze your situation, and I'll give you 90% of my cases I work on a flat fee. So once I know what your situation is, then I can give you a firm quote.
Nan, and what's it cost to get a power of attorney?
So it's just the $175.
That's it.
That's all.
And
so then you make a decision whether you want to hire me or not, and I'll give you a copy of the transcripts, and I'll tell you what tax returns need to be filed, and then you make the decision from then on. But you're only out $175. And like I said, most of those other national firms, $3,500 is the rock bottom I've heard, and most of them ask for a lot more than that.
Now, also, it's something that you do, which is your tax planner, which is absolutely phenomenal. Tell everybody about it.
Okay. Well, if you go on my website, which is tedwatkinsea.com, there on the left-hand side of the homepage, there's a little link that's called Tax Center. If you click on that, it'll take you, it says Free Tax Organizer. And what that is, it's 15 pages, but you don't have to be intimidated because it's kind of a one-size-fits-all for all taxpayers. So if you own your own business or you own rental property, if you sold stocks. But the best part of it is that it goes through almost every legal tax deduction you're entitled to take. So if you just look through it, it'll trigger things in your mind that you may have never thought about that you're entitled to deduct. For example, like you can deduct your mileage when you go to your doctor, hospital, pharmacy, etc. Also, if you donate stuff to Goodwill or Salvation Army, you're entitled to deduct the mileage for that. And those are just two small little examples, but if you look through all of them, in most cases you can save yourself a lot of taxes legally, and you're not doing anything that the IRS frowns on or anything like that.
Now, we're going to open up the lines to the audience because you like to enter everybody into Win. If you haven't done your taxes, you're going to get enrolled. You're going to get enter into Win. And if you have done your taxes, he's also going to enter you guys into Win either a 2015 or 16 business or personal tax return. That's a $350 at minimum value free to you. So he also is going to give you obviously the tax planner. We're going to give that to you right from here, as well as he likes to give you a Walmart card or a Starbucks card, and he does free consultations with everyone. So our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Everyone's getting into Win, and I suggest you all call. And the other thing that we're going to do is give out your information of your two locations, which is one in North Scottsdale, The other one is in North Phoenix. You could check him out on his website. It's tedwatkinsea.com. His phone number direct is 602-363-1952 or 480-707-7670. But I say call in here, get entered in to win. This is a $350 value free to you, and there's nothing like having an enrolled agent stand behind you. 602-277-5369.
Property.
So we have our lines open here. Ted Watkins is an enrolled agent, and he's helped in the 6 years. You've helped a lot of people out there with their issues. If you've got an issue with the tax, the IRS, and if you don't, it's wonderful to have someone who can really help you and do it at the same cost as if you went to anywhere else, really. And we've got our lines open here, and everyone's getting entered in to win a free. It's either a 2015 if you haven't done, or if you have done a 2016 personal or business tax return. You're also going to get his fabulous. It's a planner. It's a tax planner that you're going to get that has everything. You cannot miss it with any. You're never going to miss anything when it comes to Ted Watkins. As well, he's going to give you a free Walmart card or a Starbucks card. And our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. And keep on calling. I'll let you call for another 20 minutes or so. So your website, again, it's tedwatkinsea.com. You got two locations. One is North Scottsdale. The other one is North Phoenix. And you do free consultations. You really want to help people out there. By the way, you can help anyone out there in the country. So call in the toll-free number. And you can also call him direct at 602-363-1952. But call in here and get yourself entered in to win. It's a great deal. 602-277-5369. So the last time you were on, we were kind of talking about little war stories. Let's hear another one.
Okay.
Everyone likes to hear war stories.
Okay. Well, last time I was on, I'm going to kind of go over this war story again if you didn't hear me. And there's a couple little minor items I left out. But what this was a client that lived in Prescott, and they hadn't filed for quite a few years, 5 or 6 years, as I recall. And what had happened is they'd sold a house, and this was their primary residence. I don't think I really said that last time. But anyway, this was their primary residence, which they sold for $750,000 approximately. And I went back in my files after the last show, and I found that they had paid about $300,000 for the house originally. So what that means is, of course, they had a $450,000 gain. Now they thought weren't aware that the tax law allows you, if you're married, a $500,000 exclusion from profit. So that's profit. So they only had a $450,000 gain. So they actually owed no taxes, but the IRS doesn't. When the property is sold, the escrow company has to report it to the IRS, and all they do is they showed gross proceeds of $750,000 for this couple, and they have no way of knowing. You may not believe it, but they don't know. They don't know everything, and so they have no way of knowing what this couple paid for the house. So they got a tax bill based on $750,000 of gain, which turned out to be over $200,000. And so they got scared, so they didn't file their tax returns for several years. And then after about 4 or 5 years, what happened is the IRS, first of all, they issued a levy on the wife's salary at a dental office, and they also issued levies against all their bank accounts. So they were almost destitute when they came to me. So the first thing I did is I took a look at it and asked a few questions and found out, in fact, they really didn't owe anything for when they sold this house. And for the other 4 or 5 years, they owed a minimal amount, maybe $2,000 a year or something like that. So when it all came down to it, they only owed $12,000 when it all flushed out. Now, we had to get all the tax returns filed up to date because the IRS, unfortunately, they won't release levies against your bank account or salaries until you're in what they call full filing compliance, which means all your tax returns are filed up to date. So the bottom line is, for this client, they wound up only owing about $12,000. We got the levies released, And they had filed a federal tax lien also, and we got the federal tax lien released about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So now they're just left with having to make about a $200 a month monthly payment to take care of the rest of the money that's due.
They must have been happy that they called you.
They were quite happy because they were inches away from being out on the street because they were having trouble. They were renting a house and they were having trouble making their rent because of the wage levy, and so they had almost no money to live with, and they were having to borrow from friends and family just to get by.
Wow!
So that's what I can do, but you have to know what they thought it was a problem that was insurmountable, but it really wasn't.
Right.
It turned out to be a pretty, as far as tax collection cases go, $12,000 may not sound like a small amount to you, but the IRS considers anything under $25,000 a small tax case. So that's what I can do for you, and I've done it for a long time. So
here's what we're going to do. We have everybody getting entered into win. If you haven't done your 2015 taxes, or even longer, and you haven't, he's going to enter you into win. He'll go back 3 years for free for you. Also, if you have done them, he wants to enter everybody into a 2016 business or personal tax return. And he's also going to give you his tax planner, which is everybody should have this and just have it and look at it. It's just to have, as well as he's going to give you a free Walmart card or a Starbucks card. And our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. If it's not for you and someone that you know, someone in this situation, tell him about this. Call him in and get this information. Get us in. We'll get you connected with him. 602-277-5369. And for everyone out there in all the other states in this country, it's toll free 1-866-536-1100. Again, he's got 2 locations. One is in North Scottsdale and the other one is in North Phoenix. And he does free consultations with everyone. Write this number down at 602-363-1952 or call here at 602-277-5369. So, okay, in terms of stories, that's a pretty incredible one. You want to give any more just before we go instead of just talking? Well,
I've gotten a lot of calls recently, thanks to the show, primarily.
Thank you.
About penalties on taxes. And if you haven't filed for, say, 4, 5, 6 years, your penalties can be, in a lot of cases, more than the tax. And so what you should do is always file your taxes even if you can't pay. Because the IRS chart the failure to file penalties, and this doesn't sound logical, but we're talking about the IRS, and not everything's about the IRS code's not always logical. But if you don't file, the failure to file penalties are much higher than the failure to pay penalties. And that doesn't make any sense to me. It's never made any sense. But that's, as long as I've been in this business, that's always been the case. So if you don't have the money, you should always file your taxes, because you're not going to be charged the failure to pay or failure to file penalty. It's only the failure to pay penalty. And those penalties are less than 1% per month, whereas the failure to file penalties are 5% a month.
Wow.
So that's, and a lot of people, when they file their tax returns, like I said, the penalties will be higher than what the actual tax is. But if you filed your returns, a lot of times the penalties will be much less. And I've also had a lot of questions about, well, what can I do to get rid of the penalties? Well, IRS is, they're not real happy about getting rid of penalties. So I'm not going to tell you that in all cases we can get your penalties reduced or eliminated. But we can try, and I do, and it's one of their low priorities too. So it takes anywhere between 6 months and as long as a year.
Wow.
From the time that we request them to reduce or eliminate the penalties. But I do that pretty often for most people. But the point is, though, that people that ignore filing their taxes are the ones that really have the most penalties. If you've filed, but because of the bad economy or medical issues, or you lost your job or what have you, if you can't pay, then at least you've saved yourself quite a bit in penalties by at least filing a return. And if your financial situation is pretty bad, the IRS will put you in what they call currently not collectible status. And what that means is you don't have to make a monthly payment to them. So the taxes, unfortunately, don't go away. IRS has 10 years from the time you file your tax return to collect the tax. But at least you don't have to make a monthly payment to them. And, you don't have to account for that in your budget.
But also, what's really great is you'd be up to date, and with him, if you haven't done them, I don't care how long it is, he will talk to you. He does free consultations. Call in here. Keep on calling in. Everyone's getting entered in to win either a 2015 if you haven't done it, or 2016 free business or personal tax return. That's a $350 minimum. That's minimum. Free to you. And our number here is 602-277-5369. And toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. You're going to get the Walmart card. You're going to get the Starbucks card. You're going to get also that the tax planner guide, which everybody should have. Check him out. It's TedWatkinsEA.com, or call us here. Keep on calling at 602-277-5369 and get your taxes done.